I like to play the backing tracks on YouTube, but sometimes they show recommended modes. What are modes and how do I use them?
What are modes? Okay, so there's two different, I think there's two different questions here. Or at least I would like to address two different questions. First question is, or the first topic is backing tracks. So what is a backing track? A backing track is a track, a musical track that you put on in the background that you then play over or you play on top of, right? So most of the time, backing tracks will have like recommended scales or recommended chord charts or something like that. In the very beginning of learning how to play with backing tracks, that can be helpful because it can give you a starting point. But ultimately, it's just like training wheels on your bicycle. It becomes a crutch and you need to be able to balance on your own. Once you go through, learning how the scales work on the guitar, of course, our version of doing that is what's called the guitar grid. I personally think it's the simplest method I've ever heard of because you can take one pattern, literally one pattern. It happens to be 7 strings, which throws people off at first because it's like, what are you talking about? The guitar only has 6 strings. But it just happens to be that once you take all the theory out there and all the scales and you put it all together, that it actually all boils down to one pattern. Just like on a piano is the same repeating pattern over and over again. There's that same pattern on the guitar neck. It just happens to occur across 7 strings. So you have to be able to think about, well, how does this work with an invisible string? And that same pattern repeats all over the guitar neck. My point is, that's the easiest way I've ever heard of to be able to know how do you play across the neck and hit all the right notes and not have to think about it. So that leads us to the question about modes. What are modes? Well, most people, when you go out there and you type in modes or you read a book or something like that, there's not a definite answer that people will give you. They will just tell you what to do or they'll show you something. And most of the time it's different. For example, if I say, I don't want to get too technical with this, but if somebody says we're going to play in the key of G and they're going to give you some scales in the key of G, right? Well, they will say that if you start on a G note, and you play a major scale, well, it's a G major scale. And then if you take for example, in a book, you can open a theory book, and I've literally seen some theory books do this, where it will give you the notes of a G major scale. Let's make this very simple just for the sake of discussion. Let's assume that the notes in a scale are A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Okay, let's just assume that. They will give you a musical staff, or they will tell you that, hey, mode number 1 is this, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And they'll give you another musical staff below that and say, here's mode number 2, or they have some crazy name, like Aeolian or all those crazy names that almost nobody has really any idea where it came from or what it means, right? That's not important. I'm just saying that when you go out there and try to learn all this stuff, it's very confusing. So if going back to the book, they'll give you the second staff and it will just start at the second note of the first scale that they gave you. So instead of being A, B, C, D, E, F, G, it will be, they'll skip the A and it'll be B, C, D, E, F, G, and then A is at the end of it. And then they will go down to the next one and they'll start at C. And they'll go down to the next one, they'll start at D. They'll go down to the next one, they'll start at E. And by the time you read all this, you can see the pattern that they're doing, that they're just starting with the next note, but that doesn't tell you anything. It doesn't let me pick up my guitar and do something with it, right? So when it comes to modes, to be honest, I really don't recommend that most people go out there and Google what is modes and try to figure it out on their own, because they will get very confused because of what I just said about the books. If you were even trying to follow me with what I said about A, B, C, D, E, F, G, B, C, blah, 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 it's probably confusing. That's because it's confusing, right? And that's why it doesn't work. And that's why you can't play anything with it. But there's so many different versions of what people say about what modes are that it's just going to confuse you. We have one video that shows you, where does a mode come from? What is it? What I like to say is a mode, I want you to think about this very, very simplistically, okay? Let's forget about all the theory. Let's forget about all the names of the notes. Let's forget about all that stuff like the word mixolydian and all that kind of stuff, right? Let's just forget about it. A mode is a mood. I'll say that again. A mode, you can think about a mode like a mood. And when I say mood, I mean like a different mood of a scene of a movie, like a different theme of a movie. What's the mood when you're watching a movie about golf and a guy hits a hole-in-one and everybody's cheering? The music's going to be pretty happy, right? That's the mood. What's going to be the mood when you're watching a horror movie and the guy with the butcher knife is outside the window? It's going to be a completely different feeling, right? A completely different mood. Playing in different modes simply gives you different moods, okay? It's like different scenes in the movie. Now, That's really all that is. That's all as it relates to layman's terms, like humans, of how we can understand things. That's really all it is. And that's what it will allow you to do. Playing in a different mode will allow you to change the mood of what you're playing. Okay. I'll give you an example in just a second, but I don't want to go super deep into this because we don't want to have a huge long modes lesson. I just want you to finally grasp what modes are and why are they useful. Okay. Now, I just said that a mode is a mood and that when you play in different modes, it gives you a different mood or a different scene in a movie. The next question is, what creates those different moods? It's as simple as this. You're playing a pattern of notes that gives you a particular sound. That's it. What I mean is, when somebody says, hey, you're going to play the Mixolydian scale or the Mixolydian mode, or you're going to play the Dorian mode or the Dorian scale, all that refers to is a certain combination of notes that are certain distances apart from each other that just happens to create a particular mood. That's it. Now, let me give you an example of this. So let's say I'm going to play this A chord. Let me know if you can hear this, Brock.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay. So this is an A chord. If I wanted to play something that sounded happy, I can play an A major scale. Now, it doesn't matter about what I call it. Just listen to this. Sounds pretty happy, right? Generally happy, uplifting, etc. Now, what if I wanted to change the mood? This is A major, what I just played. The name of that mode, or the name of that mood, which is happy, would be called Ionian. Just because they have some fancy word name Ionian, that confuses so many people. Just throw it away. You don't need it, it doesn't matter. You just need to know what it is, right? What if I wanted to now play a sad mood? Well, it just so happens that when I take this mode and use these certain combinations of notes called Aeolian, or aka the minor scale, it just so happens to sound sad. So now, instead of playing this happy mood, I can now play a sad mood. This is an A minor chord. Listen to this. Totally different mood, right? The reason it creates a different mood is because I played a different combination of notes. That's it. That's the only thing you need to know. Let me do a couple more just so you guys can kind of get more of a glimpse into this. But I recommend, again, I'll tell you the recommendation in a second. Let me finish this. Let's say we wanted to change the mood again. So some people hear terms like Dorian, right? What does that mean? Well, let me play a Dorian mood for you, and let's see what it sounds like. So let's go. What is that? How does that feel? It's kind of sad, kind of melancholic, but in this weird place. Somebody's like in a weird mood. Maybe they're angry, maybe they're kind of sad. You can't really tell. It's kind of melancholic, but it's not like desperate, right? This would be something that's desperate. That's like, oh my gosh. That's like, wow, what just happened? So let's do another one. And by the way, I'm not trying to play something fancy. I'm just hitting some notes so you guys can hear what these moods sound like, right? Let's do another popular one, what's called Mixolydian. So if I play this chord, this might be, if you guys, any of you Doobie Brothers fans, or especially Allman Brothers, like those kind of bands will use these kind of moods a lot. And that's what gives a lot of bands or guitar players their signature sound, okay? So if I play something Mixolydian, it's gonna sound like this. It's kind of in that jam band vibe. You know, it kind of has that mood to it. So the point is, again, it's not that I'm trying to play a bunch of notes and, look flashy or anything like that. It's just that I'm trying to give you guys an example of what these moods sound like. So what have we talked about so far? What is a mode? A mode, in layman's terms, is simply a different mood. It's a different theme. It's a different scene in a movie, right? Like the soundtrack. That's how you can think about it. What's the scene? Well, what soundtrack matches that scene? In reality, the reason that we get those different moods or those different sound themes whenever we play is literally because we're playing a different combination of notes. If you want to go deeper into modes, again, like I said, we have a whole 30-minute, 40-minute long video about how you can play all the modes anywhere on the neck. And we actually have a course called Total Modal Mastery where we go deep into all this stuff so you can play any mood at any time, anywhere on the guitar neck. And it's really simple to do. It's just more than we have time for right now. So hopefully that gives you an overview of what the heck is a mode and what do I do with it.
Yeah, that was a brilliant answer. Thank you for that. Jay actually said modes make so much sense and are easy to apply after you finish the Guitar Grid Mastery course. So
awesome.
Yeah.
That's great, Jay. Yeah, it's so simple, man. And that's I want to make a point about that too, that like, you know, with what Jay just said, it makes so much sense after the Guitar Grid Mastery course. Well, guys, all this stuff is so simple. At the end of the day, it's so simple. The reason it seems so complicated and like you have to have a PhD in music theory or be Einstein to understand it all, the only reason it seems like that is just because there's a zillion books and videos and stuff out there, most of which is just really bad and boring, and they're all a little bit different. So it makes it seem like there's a billion pieces to this puzzle when there's really only like 5, right? When you put together those 5 pieces, it's like, oh, wow, this makes so much sense. In fact, there are so many guitar players that actually laugh out loud when they finally see how simple it is, right? When they get the Freedom Key system, the Guitar Grid, it's so simple. So anyway, I just want to reiterate that, because if you're out there struggling and if you're thinking like, gosh, I've been playing for so long, I can't put it all together, it doesn't all make sense. Like, I just want to encourage you that like, it is really simple. And the reason you probably feel like that is because you really are missing something that puts it all together, okay? Don't go out there and think that you have to practice for 15 hours a day for 4 lifetimes. Just don't buy into that, because it's just not true. We've all seen guitar players who get really good really, really fast. Well, they just know what to do, right? They get how it works.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video. We would love it if you hit the like button, leave a comment below, tell us what you thought about it, and subscribe to the channel. We're going to release really great content, some great backing tracks so you can practice your guitar skills on. And if you're interested in taking your guitar to the next level, we have a free course that we want to give to you. It's in the description of this video. It's going to help you discover how to freely express yourself on guitar without endless amounts of scales and theory. So check it out and let us know what you think. Thanks.